Chevrolet has produced hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of LS engines, and they came in everything from C5 to C6 Corvettes, pick-em-up trucks, SUVs, you name it. If it's a GM Chevrolet vehicle, it might have an LS engine in it. Most, if not all of these engines came with roller rocker arms, which is a good thing, but from time to time there are failures of these needle bearing fulcrums, and when that happens, the needle bearings tend to spill out into the engine and they can potentially travel around, damaging other components. Now, I've researched this issue quite a bit, and in my humble opinion, this issue is not super common, but when it does happen, I think it tends to happen more to engines that have been modified with performance camshafts and stiffer valve springs. I chose to leave the rocker arms in the supercharged C5 100% stock, mainly because it still has its stock camshaft. But with the C6, I recently added a performance camshaft, and of course it's got more lift, more duration, steeper ramp rates, and stronger valve springs, and because of this I decided to upgrade the roller fulcrums in the rocker arms to prevent against unauthorized trespassing of the needle bearings throughout the engine. There are several well-known and good Trunnion upgrade kits on the market for our LS engines, and at the end of the day I decided to go with the Brian Tooley Racing version 2 Trunnion upgrade kit for two reasons. Number one, the price is right, and number two, because of the reputation that Brian Tooley has managed to establish for himself within the LS community. Now, this is not going to be a performance upgrade in the sense that it's not going to give you any extra horsepower, but I did decide to go with this Brian Tooley kit because it uses washers and snap rings to help contain those needle bearings instead of the factory pressed in cones, and I think that's worthwhile insurance. The best part is it's really not that difficult to install these trunnions for someone who has medium or better mechanical abilities. The only specialty tools you'll need other than normal hand tools would be a good snap ring pliers, some sort of a pressing device like a mid-size or larger bench vise, or alternatively you could use a hydraulic press. If you're interested in upgrading your trunnions with a Brian Tooley Racing kit, here's a video that shows pretty much every step that's involved.
Toys for life.
Start by making sure you have a well-lit area and always protect your fenders. Start by wearing protective goggles and disconnecting the negative cable from the battery, followed by the plastic engine covers. Now I'm going to remove the driver's side coil pack assembly. Start by removing the coil harness plug from the main harness connector, followed by the spark plug wires from the coils. Mine come off easy because I always make sure to include a little dielectric grease inside the boots when changing wires. Now we can remove the 5 bolts that hold the coil pack to the valve cover, and finally disconnect the small harness that goes to the oxygen sensor, and now we can lift the coil pack assembly out of the way. This isn't too bad, but I hate grime, so I cleaned it up immediately. Now we can go do the exact same thing to remove the passenger side coil pack assembly, and then clean that grime as well. I need to rotate the crankshaft while removing the rocker arms, and we'll need access to the spark plug holes when changing the valve springs, so the next step is to remove the spark plug wires, spark plugs, and valve cover. Again, if you use a dab of dielectric grease whenever you put spark plug wires on, it really does make them easier to remove down the road. Now I can pop off the valve cover, and once again, I'm impressed with how clean things are inside. I can remove all of the rockers except for these two. As you can see when I use a straight edge, these valves are partially open, and you don't want to remove rockers under spring pressure, so these two will be last. I can go ahead and remove the others at this time, but before I do, you gotta have a plan as to where the parts are gonna go. Now I can break the bolts loose for 6 of the 8 rockers and then remove them with the 3/8" drive impact and transfer the parts to the organizer. For the remaining 2 rockers, I'll need to rotate the engine by hand until both of the remaining valves close. Then I can remove them as well and transfer them along with the push rods and the rocker arm stands to the organizer as well. Here's everything laid out nicely with each trunnion ready for its upgrade. To perform this work you can either use a press or a large bench vise. I'm going to use the press. The first step is to disassemble a stock rocker. Each rocker has these extra little flats on one side, and they will be facing down on top of a 22mm socket in order to press out the stock trunnion. On the top side, you can use either a 13 or 14 millimeter socket to press the trunnion into the rocker. Just make sure your particular socket's diameter is smaller than the diameter of the bearing cap so it doesn't get stuck. Then, keeping everything lined up straight, press the trunnion into the body of the rocker. Be careful when using a powerful press. This really doesn't take much force, so if in doubt, back it off and make sure there's nothing that's getting caught. Now we can remove the stock internals and discard them. Then grab a new bearing to install and leave the plastic needle keeper insert in place for now. Then, as shown here, press a bearing with the opening facing the rocker into your rocker arm body until it is flush with the rocker arm. Then grab a new trunnion and another bearing and insert the trunnion into the bearing you just installed, and then you can push the plastic insert out. Be sure to keep the trunnion fully installed in the bearing so the needles don't fall out, and now we can set it in the press and push the other bearing into place using a large washer on each end of the rocker. Once you press about halfway, you can release the press and remove the plastic bearing keeper, and then finish pressing the bearing in the rest of the way. Now we can add a washer on each end and install a snap ring. These are pretty stout snap rings, so make sure you've got a decent snap ring pliers. Then install a washer and a snap ring on the other side, and one rocker arm is complete. Now let's install the rocker arms. You can't compress a liquid like oil, so as a precaution against damaging the heads, I remove the excess oil with a Q-tip from all of the blind holes that the rocker arm bolts screw into. You don't have to remove all of the oil from the holes, just the vast majority of it. Then I remove the rocker arm bolts and grab the first pair of rocker arms, which are given a couple of drops of assembly lube on their contact points, and then installed by just tightening their bolts with my hands for now. Now repeat this step for the remaining 6 rocker arms on this head. You will not be able to fully tighten all of the rocker arms at this time. As you snug the bolts up with your fingers, you'll be able to tell which valves are open, usually 2 or 3 of them. All of these are down except for that one and that one, so we can tighten all the others. And we'll skip these for now and continue to snug up all of the valves that are fully closed or very close to fully closed. Once they are snugged down, I torque them to 22 pound-feet. Now using a socket on the alternator pulley, I rotate the engine just enough to close the valves that we skipped because they were open. Now we can tighten those down as well and torque them to 22 pound-feet. Then I give the rocker arm trunnion bearings a little shot of lubrication and install the valve covers. Make sure the gaskets are fully seated as you install the cover, and then tighten the bolts to 106 pound-inches. Next, I repeat this exact process on the driver's side, and once that is done, the coil packs can be installed. I'm going to put the spark plugs in next. I won't show you that because you know how to do it, but do use a little bit of anti-seize because we've got aluminum heads and you don't want them getting stuck. Just a little bit is all it takes. And then secondly, I just want to show you, I use a rubber hose over the end. That helps me get it in, and then when I'm done screwing it in, I can just pull the rubber hose off, followed by the spark plug wires. That's going to do it for this one, guys. If you learned anything, go ahead and tap that thumbs up below. If you come here often, you might as well subscribe so you get notifications for the next video. And most of all, thanks for watching.